Welcome back, students. So let's continue the next part of this play, Mother's Day by J.B. Priestley. In the previous module, the last point which we discussed, that was Mrs. Fitzgerald. She tried to convince her, especially tried to change her mind, make up her mind, Mrs. Pearson's mind, that do not run up to the needs of your husband and children like a servant. They should treat you with proper respect and the status you need in the family. And do you think it does good to them after running up to their needs continuously? So then she said that what do they think about yourself? Only a dirt. So they need to give you the proper respect then. Then after that, Mrs. Pearson said, I know, I am dropping a hint continuously. Hint means I am giving a hint to them, my family members, that you should treat me properly. Then Mrs. Fitzgerald said, hint, it is more than hints your family needs, Mrs. Pearson. Who said? Mrs. Fitzgerald said. Then Mrs. Pearson replied, but I do hate, I am not able to do that because I hate especially any kind of the unpleasantness with my family members because I fond of them, I love them. So I don't know, but one more thing is that Mrs. Pearson, she accepted, though I want to teach them, I want to make them learn, but I don't know how to start, how to begin, where to start. So when she was talking in this way, suddenly what happened, Mrs. Pearson, that she glances at the watch or the clock, and suddenly what happened? She said, what did she say, Mrs. Pearson, looking at the watch? Oh, good gracious, look at the time now. Mrs. Pearson said to Mrs. Fitzgerald, nothing is ready. They will be here at any minute, my family members. Who said? Mrs. Pearson said. And once again, what would happen? Or probably all in a hurry to go out again. See now, the way that she worried, that she bothered about the needs of her family members. When she was about to rise, that time what happened? Mrs. Fitzgerald, she pulls her down. To whom? Mrs. Pearson. What she said, Mrs. Fitzgerald? Listen, wait. Right? Let them wait. Let them come and wait for some time. Let them look up to themselves, your children and your husband. Here where that your foot goes down. You start from here today itself. Mrs. Fitzgerald said, start now, today itself. Then Mrs. Pearson said that I know, right? I accept that I should do something, but I wouldn't be able, though I am giving now promise to you that I would teach them, I would mold their behavior, but I have a doubt that I would be able to keep my promise in the future or not. Who accepted? Mrs. Pearson. Then Mrs. Fitzgerald said, if you are not able to do, then let me do it. Who said? Mrs. Fitzgerald to Mrs. Pearson. If you are not able to teach lessons to your family members, let me do it. I will teach them. Then Mrs. Pearson, surprised, flustered, shocked, dubiously, how? How is it possible? Because if you are going to teach them, they would resent you. They would protest, they would not listen to you because you are not the member of the family. Then I couldn't blame them for this. Right? If you want to teach them. Then Mrs. Fitzgerald said, no. See now, what? I will not, you don't understand, I think. Then Mrs. Fitzgerald said, we will change our personalities. I will teach them. But Mrs. Fitzgerald said, how is it possible? Mrs. Pearson said, how is it possible? I have doubt. Then Mrs. Fitzgerald said, no, that what we will do, we can change the places plus our bodies, and what will happen, you look like me and I look like you, right? Appearance, everything will be changed. Bodies. Who said? Fitzgerald said, I know the magic, I know the spell by which what will happen, I will look like you and you will look like me. Body will be changed, place, everything will be changed. Qualities, features. So then, and I know that when Mrs. Pearson asked, do you think it will work? That time Mrs. Fitzgerald said, yes, I know that it will work. Not long enough, but it is enough, long enough to do what we want to do. At least to complete our work that it will do. Then, though Mrs. Pearson was not ready, but still what happened? Mrs. Fitzgerald, that she took Mrs. Pearson's hand, in hers, and Mrs. Fitzgerald, she said to Mrs. Pearson that just keep for a minute, keep silence, don't talk. So now later on, she started uttering some words, some mantras, some words, magic words. Who? Mrs. Fitzgerald. Because Mrs. Fitzgerald, she is a fortune teller, she knows magic or the spell. So after taking Mrs. Pearson's hand in her hand, she started speaking few words, uttering magic. Right? Magic words are given. And then when the magic was going on, at that time certain changes started taking place. Right? Their personality changed, their bodies. Right? And then what happened? Then they were both women, when they were she was speaking, when she spoke the words, that time it felt that still grasping hands, they become lax, and if the life were out of them, right? Then both come to the life, but with the personality of other, each must try to adopt the voice and the mannerisms, everything. Now the personalities are changed, interchanged. Now the personality of Mrs. Fitzgerald, that is in Mrs. Pearson, and Mrs. Pearson's personality, her characters, that is in Mrs. Fitzgerald. Right? Now you make it clear one thing. Now onwards, whatever the dialogues are given, right? For example, Mrs. Fitzgerald's dialogue is there. But actually, that is Mrs. Pearson. Right? And whenever Mrs. Pearson speaks, that time, who speaks actually? Mrs. Fitzgerald, because they have changed their personalities. Appearance also changed. Now Mrs. Fitzgerald looks like Mrs. Pearson and Mrs. Pearson looks like Mrs. Fitzgerald. Personalities changed. Right? Now, coming to the, after that, what happened? Mrs. Pearson, she took a cigarette, started smoking just like Mrs. Fitzgerald, because now I told you personalities are changed. Now Mrs. Pearson, in the character of Mrs. Pearson, Mrs. Fitzgerald is there. So that is why she started smoking. So then finally she said it is happened, and after having some discussion that then she said, Mrs. Pearson said to Mrs. Fitzgerald, so now see what I will do. Let me do the work. I will change their behavior. Totally that I will change their behavior. And when Mrs. Pearson, when she had a doubt whether we will be able to change our personalities, that time Fitzgerald said, don't worry, any time that we can change our personalities. And you can live my life, you can go to my home. It would be better than as I here. Nobody is there in my house that you can go there, after some time you can come back. Mrs. Fitzgerald said to Mrs. Pearson. Right? So now, then Mrs. Fitzgerald said, now you may depart because this is the time. The children will come, or they will come, your husband, children, that they will come. Let me let me deal with them as per my own way. Who said? Mrs. Fitzgerald said to Mrs. Pearson, let me do. Now the personalities are changed. Their appearance is changed. Right? So later on, Mrs. Pearson, that she departs. Right? She went to where? Or she goes to Mrs. Fitzgerald's house. Right? So now up to this one we have seen that in this part we have discussed now with the help of magic spell that they have changed their personalities. Now in the form of Mrs. Pearson, now Mrs. Fitzgerald is there, and in the form of Mrs. Fitzgerald, Mrs. Pearson is there. Right? So now the next content that we will continue in the next module.